Today we'll be reviewing the Fanatec CSL Universal Hub. It came out September and I finally got my hands on it. I've been trying it out a little bit here and there. It's pretty much Fanatec's answer to releasing another Universal Hub that's in the lower price range. So it's like the entry-level Universal Hub. This is the V2 version. They have the V1 that came out maybe a couple years ago, and initial reviews were kind of for the V1. First of all, Fanatec didn't send this to me. I had to buy it with my own money, so I have no biased opinion. I want to keep my reviews like that. Go into it with an open mind. Here it is. Right now I have the 320 wheel, and here's the actual hub. So the hub itself is what this wheel is bolted onto. There's actually two sets of screws. So there's 3x50 millimeters and then a 6x70. So most of your 6-bolt wheels will work on this hub. I have a quick disconnect here. This hub comes with the light version of the quick disconnect. I'm just temporarily using the metal one on this wheel. 21 total inputs, 8 buttons, 2 toggle switches, a rocker switch, and then a funky switch, and then your paddle shifter. You get the hub, you can get it as a kit with the wheel, and then it comes with a quick release light, and tools and instructions. There's a 3-digit 7-segment LED display on there too, so you don't get the full LED screen that you get on some of the other wheels. The comparisons to the V1, the main things are the buttons are pre-printed instead of solid colors. They used to have a solid green, solid red, solid blue buttons, which is, in my opinion, better than the pre-printed buttons. Because the pre-printed buttons, you're kind of stuck with, and you can't really customize it. I think they should have just gave us blank buttons and then put our own stickers on there. Another thing they upgraded between the 1 and the 2 is these paddle shifters are better. So they have that clicky carry switch feel, but the actual shifter itself doesn't wobble. I don't know if anyone has the V1, but the shifter would wobble, especially if I pressed it just on the edge. Kind of solid there. They also improved on this little metal bar that goes across. These switch boxes can move around, and without the metal bar, you could just imagine press a switch, this plastic piece will flex, but not anymore with that metal bar. The wheels that come in the kit are actually pretty nice. There's metal here and leather here. These are the main areas you touch, and I like how it feels, which is a huge improvement from the Gran Turismo wheel. Gran Turismo wheel is rubber and plastic, so it kind of feels cheap when you're holding it on the main touch points. It doesn't matter if the buttons are plastic, but steering wheel feels plastic. And it feels a lot lighter too. The steering wheel itself is actually pretty good. The hub has this plastic feel on it, but it's just buttons, you know? You're not pressing buttons the entire race. So if you can handle the plastic buttons, which most buttons anyway are plastic, then that's fine. The buttons, I would say, are the weak point with the plastic feel. Let's talk about the cons first. I would consider it half a con that it comes with the QR1 light, because you could upgrade it, you could change it. It's a pretty good system. I've only heard of it breaking a couple times, but I've been using it on other wheels and it feels pretty sturdy. Another con is it's like the same price as the Podium Hub. So this is the Podium Hub. It comes with a metal quick disconnect, and it has the same 3x50 bolt pattern and then 6x70 bolt pattern. So you could put your actual wheels. I have my Momo steering wheel for my Lotus, and it's just a regular 6-bolt pattern that you see on all cars. And I could use this with the Podium Hub and with the Universal Hub. And it's the same exact price. A Universal V2 Hub CSL is $149, and this is also $149. The thing you're missing are the shifters, buttons, and all that jazz, right? There's no screen or your setup, but if you're just gonna use the wheel for just practicing sim racing and for your real car, then you don't really need the buttons because you're not going to be paddle shifting. You're going to be using a shifter, right? So if you were just practicing, I think this is actually a better option, right? Of course, you could always get the Podium Hub and then add on. Like, so here we have the additional switches you could buy and the paddle shifters you could buy, which the button clusters are $29 and then the paddle shifters $99. So I guess that's a con for the Universal Hub V2. It's not modular, so you kind of get what you get, right? You're stuck with the buttons and shifter. You can't change it out like you can with the Podium Hub. Another con is it's not Xbox compatible. So anyone who's on Xbox can't use the Universal Hub. Like we already mentioned, there's pre-printed buttons, so you don't get button caps. The premium wheels, they have button caps where you could change out the graphics, so you're not stuck with the arrows and the button feel. So it feels pretty entry level. I feel like the buttons are the weak point. But all these cons considered, it's great value for the quality, and it gets the job done. So if you need a Universal Hub because you want to practice on your real car, but you need buttons and shifters, as a bundle, it's really cheap. Because if you get it with the wheel, it's $199. So the 320 millimeter wheel is exactly the same size as my Momo wheel. So why not get it for like 50 bucks more, right? Instead of spending like 300 bucks on a whole new wheel. So those were the cons. Here are the pros. It's a niche item from Fanatec for entry-level people who want a universal hub. One of the things about sim racing is you want it to feel like your car if you race a car in real life, right? So pretty solid universal hub. It gets your feet wet, right? The button modules are movable, even though they're not replaceable, so they could extend and retract. There's a picture of them retracted, and here's a picture of them extended. It fits a bunch of wheels. All of Fanatec wheel offerings will fit. If you get like a small Formula wheel, it'll be nice and compact and really tight, or you can get it extended like if you were using like a real car steering wheel, like a 330 millimeter. Great value when bundled. If you get the wheel with it, it's only 50 bucks more. So if somebody's on a budget, that's what I would go for. Solid wheel to base. What I mean by that is when you're holding the steering wheel and you rock it back and forth, it's still pretty solid. Even though the hub itself is plastic, the bolts for the wheel to the base is all metal. So just because the buttons are plastic doesn't mean the whole thing is plastic, right? Probably not as solid as the podium hub, but still pretty good. I like it because it's clean, so that's another pro. If we look at the other hub offering, so this is the lower tier, right? Entry level. There's a mid tier. And this is the Club Sport Universal Hub. It looks nice, but not as clean, right? There's wires exposed and it's modular, but I feel like you need a cover on top to make it look clean. But I mean, that's all personal preference, right? But here's the biggest pro. It's versatile. You could use your Momo wheel. You could use a spare wheel you have for your car, right? So if you're driving in real life and you want to practice, I think this is the hub for you. So even though there are a couple cons, I think this is still a pretty solid choice when you're using your own wheels. It's not useless, so there is a use case for it. A lot of people say if you want to go cheap, just get the P1 wheel. P1 wheel has, you know, built-in buttons, shifter. It's similar to a round steering wheel, like a road car steering wheel. That's pretty solid. I heard reports that it's not as durable, but what are you missing when you get something like this? This is like $119, so it's even cheaper, right? You go for $199, or do you go for the P1 wheel, which is $119? Well, now you lose the versatility, right? You can't put whatever steering wheel you have in your car. So that's like the biggest con to me. Let's look at it like an alternative. So just say you weren't doing road cars and you're mainly looking at Formula cars, open wheels, or you're just doing sim racing. You don't care if it's not simulating your car in real life. I think it's a decent option. So remember, one of the cons was it's not Xbox compatible. Well, the CSL Elite McLaren GT3 V2 wheel is Xbox compatible. It's the same exact price, $199, if you get this versus the Universal Hub and wheel. You get the full LED screen, you get little knobs, you get more buttons, you get the funky switch still, and you get little toggle. You still get paddle shifters, and you get clutch paddles in the back. They're pretty cool. If you weren't looking for simulating your car in real life, this would probably be the wheel to get. But I know a lot of the people who follow me race in real life, so I would recommend the Universal Hub still. Just say I grabbed the wheel and I was doing this to it. That's all the play that's happening right now. You can still kind of see it a little bit, but it doesn't feel bad. That's the wheel to base connection. It feels solid. So just because you're getting a cheaper Universal Hub doesn't really sacrifice too much. There's a market for it. Someone who's trying to get into it that really wants to simulate car driving and they want to improve their driver mod at the track for real, I think this is a good starting point. You're not buying something cheap that will hurt your base or damage the pins on your quick release and all that stuff, but the buttons is where they save the money. So that's the part where you definitely can tell it's a budget. But if you don't care about the buttons and you're just, you only need to press them a couple times, then you should be fine. There's no rotary switches. You have to hit the up and down toggle switches. But you have black box functionality. You have ABS strength. You have traction control strength. You could even do the rocker switch and let that do brake bias if you want. So there's enough buttons on here for you to be able to sim race competitively. You could do drifting. You could do road cars. You could do truck sims. You could do all kinds of stuff. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.